Can you see the slide?
Visible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today, in the design of tall structures, the first unit was the design philosophies, design methodologies, the materials that is used for construction, that we discussed in the first unit. The second unit we discussed about the loading, that is the gravity loading, wind loading, earthquake loading, impact loading, construction loading. So different types of loading that is applicable for analysis of tall structures. And in the third unit, we discussed about the structural systems, the various structural systems that is adopted for the construction of tall structures, especially the rigid frames, braced frame, infill frame, shear walls, tubular construction, tube in tube, outrigger structures, okay, space structures. So different structural form and its behavior we have learned in the third unit. Now we'll move on to the fourth unit. Fourth unit deals with the analysis and design. Okay. So in this analysis and design, we will not be able to do the complete analysis. We know that tall structure analysis is not that simple, and we cannot sit and do it in the class. Okay. So it is. Yeah, we will see how the modeling is done for a tall structure when a complicated structure is given to you. What is the concept behind the software in the because you're going to use the software, either you're going to use a StatPro or you're going to use any other ETABS or SAP or any software you'll be using to analyze and design the tall structures. Okay, so but whatever input that you give, that will come as an output. Okay, so if you give a wrong input, the result what you are getting will be a wrong result. So that will affect the structure, and that will affect the entire. It may lead to a big calamity. So whenever you do an analysis, the important part is that you should know how the analysis is done. Even though the software does the analysis and gives you the result, you should know what is the concept, how it is done, what is the input that you have to be given, okay, etc. Whatever, because any software without your input, it will not give you an output. Okay, you have to give the input. That is up to you. Any structural engineer should know how to give the input. So here in this particular unit, fourth module, analysis and design, how the modeling is done, and the concept alone will be discussed, and we will do some numerical in this particular unit. And the assignment, either if you are not able to complete it in this particular semester, you can do it. It's only a three-dimensional analysis that you have to do it using any software, and you can submit it as an assignment. Okay. So I hope all of you know the software. How many of you are familiar with the StatPro? How many of you are familiar with any software? Because you must have done in your BTech program, isn't it? You are either in 7th semester or 8th semester, you must have learned StatPro, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So I don't know about Mikias, what software you have to analyze a structure. Did you use any software to analyze the structure? That he has to answer me. Okay. So otherwise, except for him, all others must be knowing at least minimum StatPro for analyzing a building. Okay. So that is a minimum condition. That is a criteria that is needed for a structural engineer to analyze a structure. Okay. So here in this fourth module, the contents will be, you will be learning about an approximate analysis, an accurate analysis, some reduction techniques, analysis of building as a total structural system, analysis of member forces, drift, not draft, okay, sorry, drift, drift and twist, and a computerized general 3D analysis. So this is what the last part, you can do it. A three-dimensional analysis of a structure. You can model it in StatPro or any other software, and you can do a computer analysis can be done. Okay. So we know that any structural elements, any structural element we take, we design it for the sectional shape, that means the cross section, the properties, the resisting capacity, design, deflection, pre-stressing, cracking, all these, most of the properties you find out for the structural elements in a building. Structural elements mainly meant for your, you can see, in building the structural elements, you have structural elements are there, non-structural elements are there. Structural elements, you have slab, beam, column, girders, walls, anything, shear wall, whatever it is, anything that take care of the load. Okay, if the load transfer mechanism or the load carrying members, they are called structural elements. And at the same time, you have non-structural elements like partitions, staircase, cladding units. These are also important part of the structure, but this staircase carry some load, but it is considered as a non-structural element. Okay. So here, the analysis or design mainly, the design includes finding out the dimensions of the structural elements, the reinforcement that is used in the structural elements, or the deflections, the cracking, how much pre-stressing, all these informations that we are doing it for a, when we do a design, we get it as an output. Okay. So the response of a building is governed by the components that are stressed as the building deflects. Okay. So whenever we know that it is all your tall structures, as I was telling from the beginning, they are all considered as a cantilever. Okay. So whenever some lateral loads that is coming over there, the building will have a deflection. Okay. So as it deflects, as the building deflects, how much each member gets stressed. Okay. What is the bending moment or shear force? How much every member, because of the building deflection, how much stress all the members are stressed. Okay. So that that will give the response of the building. Response, you know that when there is an external load that is acting on a building, the response is in the form of either a stress, shear force, or a bending moment, or a tensile force, or a compressive force, or some deflection or some rotation. So these are all the response of the building for an external loading. Okay. So that is governed by how the each member is stressed. Okay, for the as the building deflects. So that is what we are finding it out in the analysis. Now in the analysis, you know the tall structure analysis is not that simple. Okay, because it's such a complicated structure you have when you consider the entire structure. But in a simple method, what we do, the initial analysis when we do, you can include only the structural component. Okay, you include only the structural component, neglect the contribution from the non-structural component. That's a simple method. So if you want to an immediate result, an immediate analysis, if you want to do it, an approximate analysis in a simple way, if you want to do it, just include only the structural component, neglect all the contribution from non-structural components. So the main objective of that simple method is to identify, first thing, to identify the main structural elements, which are all the structural elements which contribute to the response of the structure. Recognize the dominant modes of action, as I was telling in the initial structural dynamics part. Okay, if we have different stories, this is one mode of deflection. Then you have, this is another mode of deflection. Then this is another mode of deflection. So different modes of actions are available for a tall structure. Okay, so recognize the dominant modes of action. Usually the dominant mode is the flexural mode. Okay, so this is one or two modes only you usually consider. Even if you have a 100-story building, it will deflect, or it will have 100 mode shapes. It will have 100 mode shapes. So, but we cannot consider all the mode shapes participation in the response. You consider only the major one. Okay, so recognize the dominant modes of action, then assess the extent of contribution of each element. So according to, for that particular mode of action, what is the contribution of each element? So that becomes a simple method of analysis. Okay. So the analysis itself I can categorize as a preliminary analysis, a final analysis, and a hybrid approach of analysis. Okay. So what are the different ways we can do an analysis? Initially, a preliminary analysis. So what is the meaning of preliminary analysis? The purpose of preliminary analysis is to compare the performance of all alternate proposals for the structure. That means when you do an initial analysis, just a preliminary analysis, you will know what are all the modifications to be done, what exactly. So another way you can say, to determine the deflections and major member forces in a chosen structure so as to allow it to be properly proportioned. That means in order to get the dimensions, the initial dimensions, initial member forces, the major member forces in a structure, you can go for a preliminary analysis. Okay, so the preliminary analysis includes, it's a simple method. Okay, the formation of model and procedure should be rapid. So it should be, you cannot take much time to model the building. A simple modeling can be done, and the procedure also, a simple procedure can be adopted. What will be the output? It will give an overall output. It will not give you an accurate result. It will not give all the member forces. It will give you an overall output, and it gives only a general information. It gives only general information. It gives the maximum deflection. It gives the major member forces, and it decide on the structural form. Which structural system has to be adopted? Okay, either we can go for a rigid frame or a braced frame or an infilled frame or a shear wall. Which structural form has to be adopted? That decision can be made from the preliminary analysis. Okay, all the results should be within 15% variation from the accurate analysis. As I told, it will not give you an accurate analysis. So when you do an accurate analysis, a 15% variation is permitted when you do for a preliminary analysis. Okay, so even if you take a small residential building, what will you do initially? Initially, you assume the dimensions. The beam can be 200 by 300, column can be of 300 by 300, slab thickness is 120 mm. These are all the initial assumptions you make. It is initially. Then you go for a detailed analysis and check whether this assumption that you have made, it is correct or not. Okay, so similar way, a preliminary analysis can be done for a tall structures to give a general information and the major member forces in a building. Then you take a one. If you go for a final analysis, it provides an accurate result for deflection and member forces. Okay, we will tell you what is a final analysis, how it can be done, etc. It gives an accurate result for deflection and member forces. It includes all possible actions and interaction modes, possible lesser modes. That means, as I was explaining in the previous slide, maximum possible interaction modes. Okay, we can include it in the final analysis. And twisting effect for unsymmetrical structure should be included. So in the preliminary analysis, we neglect all these things. Even if a structure is asymmetric, unsymmetrical, we will not consider the twisting effect, torsional effect. All the effect will not be considered in the preliminary analysis. But when you do a final analysis, all this effect has to be included. Twisting effect has to be included. Include all possible actions, accurate results for deflection and member forces. Okay, and to do a final analysis, it is better to adopt a 3D stiffness matrix of approach of analysis or a finite element analysis. Okay, so your preliminary analysis will be a analysis which will not include any finite element analysis. We will not discretize it, because now we are learning finite element analysis, isn't it? Joanna ma'am is teaching you the advanced structural analysis subject, isn't it? Did you learn about any finite element method there? Did you you are studying now advanced structural analysis, isn't it? Are you all here or not? Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Then why there is no response? I am going on talking. Is it audible to you clearly?
We are listening.
Okay. Okay. So you are learning now advanced structural analysis, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What are you learning there? What did you learn? At least tell me some 1 or 2 topics.
Finite elemental analysis.
Finite element analysis you are learning, isn't it? So that's what we are discussing here also. when you have to do an accurate analysis for a tall structure also, you have to, the final accurate analysis can be done using a finite element method of analysis. Okay, but when you do an accurate analysis, you have to give a special attention to be given, a special detailed analysis needed for deep beams at transition levels of the structure. That means, suppose for example, if you take near the staircase and you have a deep beam provision is there. Okay, suppose if it is a bigger spiral staircase or any other number of treads or number of rises are increasing, you have a, at the end of the staircase, you can see a deep beam there. So that has to be taken special attention. Special detailed analysis is required when you go for a final analysis. Then around the irregularities, if there are any holes in the shear wall, openings in the shear wall. So that particular areas and all detailed analysis is required because the reinforcement has to be properly provided there. So when you go for a final analysis or an accurate analysis, each and every minute aspect of the structure has to be taken into consideration. Okay, all detailed analysis is required. Detailed analysis in the sense every nook and corner of the structure has to be taken into consideration for analysis. You cannot just take an approximation. Okay. So this is the final analysis. That is, usually you cannot do anything manually. You will go for any finite element method of analysis, or you have a stiffness matrix method of analysis, matrix methods of analysis. Okay. Now the third one is a hybrid analysis. Hybrid analysis means it's a combination. It's a combination of preliminary and final analysis. Okay, it's a combined effort. Suppose if this complicated, if you see, when we have to go for a hybrid analysis, when the three-dimensional analysis of a fully detailed structure becomes difficult for computation. So it's such a complicated structure, the complete structure, the 3D analysis of a fully detailed structure becomes so difficult for computation. So in that case, you can go for a hybrid analysis. Okay. So that hybrid analysis, it consists of a two-stage approach. It's a two-stage approach, preliminary and final. Okay. So initially you can do, and you can find out the initial dimensions, everything. Then you can go for a final analysis. So both together we can combine it to do for a hybrid analysis. Okay. For example, if I say for structures consist of many bent is a term that is used to represent vertical elements. Okay, which are all the vertical elements? Column is a vertical element, wall is a vertical element, shear wall is a vertical element. So all such vertical elements, it is a common term that is called bent. Okay, B-E-N-T. That you can see most of the slides, you can see this term. So a structure consists of many bends. It can be modeled as a simple equivalent cantilever. Okay, that means if I have, suppose if I take so many vertical elements are there. Okay, if I have many vertical elements are there, or if you have a shear wall, if I have a shear wall like this. So if I have a shear wall like this, so this is one shear wall, another shear wall, this shear wall, or entire together, I can just model it as a single column, as a single cantilever. I can model it. Okay, so the entire shear structure, the shear wall, or this entire frame, I can model it as a single column. Okay, or single equivalent cantilever. So for the first cycle, what will I do? I can do a 3D modeling of the whole structure with equivalent cantilevers. Okay, so I can make it as this one particular frame. I can make it as a one cantilever. This another frame, I can make it as another cantilever. The third frame, I can make it as another cantilever. So instead of doing this entire whole structure, I can make number of cantilevers. Okay, a single cantilever. So the entire properties of that particular frame can be modeled into the cantilever. The moment of inertia, the area of cross section, everything, entire thing can be taken equivalent to the original structure. I can model it as a single cantilever. Then So the first cycle, what will I do? I will model everything as a simple cantilever, and I can do a 3D modeling of the whole structure with equivalent cantilevers. Okay. So what will I get? I will get an approximate deflection and member forces. Then I'll get the bent loading, the vertical axial loadings, everything I will be getting from the 3D modeling of the whole structure with equivalent cantilever. Then I will go for a 2D analysis for each cantilever. Okay. The whole structure I will do. Then individually I can take the cantilever. I can do a 2-dimensional analysis as a simple cantilever analysis. There I will get the exact member force. Then I can adjust the member size. Okay. So this is one cycle. Is it clear? The entire structure I can model it as a number of cantilevers. That cantilevers altogether I can do a 3D modeling. Okay. Then from there I will be getting the approximate reflections or approximate member forces. Then I can take the each cantilever separately. I can do a 2-dimensional. 2-dimensional analysis is very simple. And you know that a simple cantilever, how do you do a 3-dimensional 2D analysis? You know how, suppose if you have a cantilever, how will you find out the deflection? What is the deflection? What is the deflection of a cantilever if there is a concentrated load here? You know what is the deflection at the free end? If I draw it horizontally, it becomes beam. If I make it vertically, it becomes a column. Tell me, what is the deflection at the free end of a cantilever? If this is the length L, if L is the length, what is the deflection at the free end of a cantilever? What's the formula? No idea. This WLQ by (3EI). Do you remember this? Deflection at the free end of a cantilever is WLQ by 3EI. This you have studied in your 3rd semester or 4th semester of your strength of materials.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
WLQ by 3EI, isn't it? So you get easily, for a simple cantilever, you can do an analysis very simple. Only thing you should know the moment of inertia of this I value. When you model it, this I value will be equivalent to this, but one particular, maybe this shear wall, I will be modeling it as a cantilever. So the entire moment of inertia of this structure, I will model it, I will include it. I will give us an input to this cantilever. So I know what is the deflection. So I can find out the deflection. I can find out the load acting. Then from that I can do the design. I know the bending moment. So from the bending moment I can find out the reinforcement. Then I can find out the members moment, that the cross section of the cantilever. Everything I can calculate it. Okay. So that is what. Then once you, as a whole structure, you do the equivalent cantilever and do the 3-dimensional analysis. Then detailed 2D analysis of each cantilever will give you the exact member forces and adjust the member sizes. Okay. So this is the first cycle. Now in the cycle 2, so once you adjust the member sizes and the member forces, then again you can go for a 3D modeling of the modified bend. So you have changed the dimension, because when you do the initial 3D, you got the approximate. When you do the 2-dimensional analysis, you got the exact member sizes, everything. Then that again you can put it into you can correct it into the bend, the vertical members. Again you can do a 3D modeling of the modified bend to obtain the correct bend loading. Then you can go for a 2D analysis to get the member forces and deflection. Okay. So like 2 cycles, 2-stage approach you can do. Preliminary analysis as well as a detailed analysis. So this becomes a hybrid approach. So this will make the analysis simple. Okay, this will make the analysis simple. So using this 2-stage procedure, a single large 3D analysis of a detailed model can be avoided and replaced by a number of simpler analysis. Instead of a huge structure with a detailed model analyzing everything as a complicated structure, you can split that analysis into a number of simpler analysis. But this approach it is simple, but it requires a special care in forming the 3D cantilever model to obtain the reliable result. So that is what I am telling. Whenever you model it, okay, your scale down, your everything, all the similarity laws, similitude laws, model analysis, everything has to be well understood, and you have to model it in a proper way, because if you are not bringing the entire properties into the cantilever, your analysis becomes a failure. Okay, so it requires a special care in forming the 3D cantilever model to obtain the reliable result. So these are the 3 different types of analysis we can do it in a tall structure. Is it clear up to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, why this is, you have now you have some assumptions. Whenever you do for a tall structure, you have to make some assumptions. Okay, so this why we have to go for assumptions? Because any structural analysis, you do some assumptions. Last class I told you one assumption, isn't it? Do you remember what was that assumption? I don't know whether I told you or not. Okay, leave it. Why we have to go? Why we have to do assumptions before you do any structural analysis? I have given here the answer also. Why? If you are not making any assumptions, the number of parameters, okay, the reflections, the rotations, all the parameters will become very high, so that your analysis become very complicated. Okay, even for a simple structure itself, even if you are not making an assumption, the number of parameters will be. I will explain you what is the number of parameters. Okay, so the first assumption that we do it in materials. The first assumption is that the materials of the structure and the components are linearly elastic. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of the first sentence? In your own words, can you say? The materials of the structure and the components are linearly elastic. What does, in another way, can you explain what is the meaning of this? All the material obeys Hooke's law. What is Hooke's law? What is Hooke's law? Tell me, what is Hooke's law? You are all MTech students. Tell me. Huh?
The stress and strain will be proportional now.
Stress is proportional to strain, isn't it? Then when I ask why, answer it. Stress is proportional to strain means what? The material, they behave in a linear manner. Okay, because so whenever you draw the stress strain curve, it becomes a, this is strain and this is stress, isn't it? So the stress strain curve of a material, you can draw, whether it is for a concrete or steel. What will happen? But initially it will become linear, then it goes to a non-linear behavior, isn't it? So the initial portion, this portion, we call it as a linear variation. So what we assume here, the materials of the structure and the components are linearly elastic. So they are in the elastic state. That is an assumption we make. Suppose if you go to a nonlinear, the nonlinear analysis we do, okay, we do nonlinear analysis. Nonlinear analysis will give you the accurate result, but for most of the constructions, we usually take the linear in the elastic stage. Okay, so this particular portion we take it, but we do it. Okay, all the plastic analysis we take the plastic region. Okay, in this region. But one of the major assumption is the materials and the structural components are linearly elastic. Then the second assumption that we make, the participating components. Only the primary structural components will participate in the overall behavior of the structure. Okay. So what is the meaning of the primary structural components? Which are the primary structural components? Your beams, columns, slabs, walls. So main load carrying members will participate in the overall behavior. But in some special cases, you cannot neglect some of the components. That means if there is a heavy cladding, you know what is cladding? The facade units, the outside you give for the aesthetic purpose, so you provide some cladding units. So if you provide a heavy cladding unit in the structure, that effect of that cannot be neglected. You have to take that into consideration. Similarly, you do a masonry infill. Whenever you do an analysis of the structure, the major failure of the structure happens during the analysis time. You usually take only the frame alone. Okay, you don't consider, suppose if this is the frame that we consider, you analyze this portal frame separately, and you don't consider the masonry infill that is there in this particular structure. So that the masonry infill changes the behavior and increases the force. So sometimes if there is a heavy masonry infill is provided, or any other heavy infill materials are provided, you have to take the effect of that also into consideration. So such exception, other than this, we assume that only the primary structural components will participate in the overall behavior. That is one assumption. And another assumption is that the floor slabs are assumed to be rigid in plane. All this, because why I am talking all this, this is very important for you. When you model it, when you do an analysis, you should understand that these are the assumptions that we make in it. Okay. The floor slabs are assumed to be rigid in plane. What's the meaning of this? Floor slab, this is very important assumption. Okay, very, very important assumption, we do it. So what does it mean? This assumption causes the horizontal displacements of all vertical elements at a floor level defined in terms of rigid body rotations and translation. Therefore, the unknown displacements to be determined reduces. What is the meaning of this? You know what is the meaning of this? Suppose if you have a multi-bay, multi-storied rigid frame structure is available. Okay, structure is available. Now this is subjected to some lateral force. So what will happen to this? This will have a, it will have, so it will not go like this. Okay, it will be like this. Okay, it will have some sway. So what is that? This is the 1 story level. This is the 2nd story level. This is the 3rd story level. So similarly, I am talking about a 3 story. You have a 100 story or 150 story building. Okay. So what this particular assumption says, the floor slabs are assumed to be rigid in plane, in the sense at this floor level you consider only one delta. Okay. There is only one deformation. That is, otherwise what you can do is at each level, you know that this particular frame I take, there will be some deformation at each delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, delta 4. Every frame will have a deformation. If I assume that that particular floor slab is rigid, so you assume that there is only here 1 delta 1 will be there at the top level. If we take, this is another delta 2. So all together we say that there is only one deformation at each floor level. There is another 2nd one, 3rd one. You take only 3 deformations. If this assumption is not there, it will have a multiple number of deformations you have to take. Similarly, rotations. Rotations also. At each joint, if I take, I can take theta for this member, theta for this member, theta for this member. In this joint itself, I can say that there are 3 rotations. But these assumptions make me clear that there is only one rotation at this particular joint. Okay, so if I take this particular joint, if there are 3 or 4 or 5 members are meeting, I assume that there is only one rotation that is possible at this joint. Otherwise, I can take theta BA, theta BC, theta BD, theta BE. So if this is a joint B, okay, so the number of parameters becomes more. Okay, so that is why this assumption causes the horizontal displacements of all vertical elements. These are the vertical elements. The horizontal displacements at a floor level defined in terms of rigid body rotations and translation. That is only one rotation and one deformation is taken into consideration. Is it clear this? Understood? Unless otherwise you respond, I don't know whether you are listening or you are sleeping in the class or you are talking, nothing I know.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, we are listening.
Listening, okay. You give me an inspiration, otherwise how do I know that what are you doing there? Okay. Okay. So the fourth assumption is that negligible stiffness. Okay. That means the component stiffness of relatively small magnitude are assumed to be negligible. Okay, like the bending, transverse bending stiffness of slab, minor axis stiffness of shear wall, torsional stiffness of beam, columns and walls, all such negligible magnitude are not considered during the analysis. Okay, suppose if you have a shear wall, a rectangular shear wall, there is a minor axis is there, there's a major axis is there, a minor axis is there. Okay, you don't consider the minor axis because it is very slender and it is tall, so you consider the major axis deformations only. Okay, the minor axis stiffness of the shear wall will be neglected. Similarly, the torsional effect of a beam, column, walls and all we neglect it. Similarly, slab also. Slab we have out of plane bending we will not be considered. So the transverse bending stiffness of slab will not be considered. So that is one assumption. The negligible deformation. Relatively small and little influence deformations are neglected. Like axial deformations of columns, beams. Suppose if I take a beam, we will not consider the axial forces. Okay, this axial force will not be considered in case of a beam. Similarly, for a column also, we don't consider the axial, we say take the maximum lateral deflection instead of the axial deformation of the columns will be neglected. Shear deflection in beams and all such minor, that is small and little influence deformations are neglected. Then another assumption that we make is cracking. The effect of cracking in RC members due to flexural tensile stresses are represented through reduced moment of inertia. This means, so here I have taken the gross moment of inertia of beams are reduced to 50% of their uncracked value. You know, I don't know whether you can understand this meaning of this. Suppose most of you must have done experiments during your BE project and all. Those who have done experiments, you must have made a beam and you must have made it. Anybody has done any beam experiments in your, any beam or column experiments in your BE project? Any experimental study, investigation you have done?
No, ma'am.
Everybody in your 8th semester project, what did you do, all of you? 8th semester, what did you do your project?
The project, ma'am.
Huh? 8th semester of BTech. Okay, final
Eighth sem only.
what did you do?
Soil stabilization, ma'am.
Okay, soil stabilization. Nobody has done anything in structures?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then suppose if I take a beam and if it is loaded, and what will we do? You will do this. You will apply the load, and finally you will test it in a testing machine, and it will develop some cracks. Okay, during deflection, what will happen? This will develop some cracks. Some flexural cracks will be there. Some shear cracks will be there. this will be cracking. So initially when you cast the beam, it has a moment of inertia, isn't it? It has a moment of inertia. If it was a rectangular section, the moment of inertia would have been BDQ by 12, isn't it? The moment of inertia of the rectangular cross section of this beam is BDQ by 12. Now once it cracks, the moment of inertia gets reduced. The moment of inertia gets reduced. Okay. So usually when you do the analysis, what we will do, we always takes the initial moment of inertia BDQ by 12. Okay. So when during usually you can do during a tall structure analysis and all, when you do the analysis, you can reduce the moment of inertia. The gross moment of inertia of the beams can be reduced to 50% of their uncracked value. Okay. Similarly, for column, it can be reduced to 80%. It's an assumption. It's an assumption. We know that, as I told you, deflection, if I take a delta is equal to WLQ by 3EI, isn't it? 3EI. So I has an important rule. So when you model it, the moment of inertia you have to input it. Moment of inertia has to be given as an input, or stiffness, if you do a stiffness 6EI by L square. So these are some of the stiffness calculations, everything. So everywhere your moment of inertia plays an important role. So the assumption what we do is the gross moment of inertia of the beams are reduced to 50% of their uncracked value, and for columns it can be reduced to 80%, because it will reduce during the long run of the building. The moment of inertia of the original structure will reduce it. Okay, so that assumption. So effect of cracking in RC members due to flexural tensile stresses are represented through reduced moment of inertia. So these 6 major assumptions we do before you go for an analysis. Okay. Okay. So this is one part of your this particular module up to the assumptions. So what we have learned till now is the analysis, preliminary analysis, final analysis, hybrid analysis. Then we have learned about the assumptions that we have done in the during analysis of the buildings. Okay. Now, how do you do modeling for approximate analysis? So we talked about preliminary analysis, like an approximate analysis, and another one is an accurate analysis. Okay. So approximate analysis, how do you model it? This modeling you make at the preliminary design stage. Why we have to do this modeling? To estimate the stiffness of the proposed structure, to estimate the stiffness of the proposed stiffness, in the sense what? Stiffness is the ability to deform. Okay, ability to deform, that is a stiffness. So to estimate the stiffness of the proposed structure and hence its feasibility, to estimate the allocation of external loading between the bent means vertical elements, between the vertical elements, how the external loading has to be allotted or it has to be allocated, to allow for more detailed individual bent analysis. So what you do, the modeling, either you can go for a numerical analysis. Numerical analysis is nothing but your finite element analysis. Okay. Either you can go for a finite element analysis of a simplified discrete member model, or you can go for a closed solution. You know what is a closed solution? To the characteristic differential equation of an equivalent continuum structure. The closed solution is like in mathematics you must have learned. For example, if I say, suppose you all of you have studied differential equations and all, isn't it? Differential equations and all. In mathematics you must have learned, you must have taken a solution. If y is equal to a sin omega t plus a sin omega t plus b sin cos omega t, some solution, some empirical equations you'll do. Then you do a solution for this. You'll find out what are all the possible solutions for this particular mathematical equation, and you will come out with a solution. How much, what will be the value of omega and what will be the value of y, etc. So this type of analysis, okay, such mathematical solutions. Either you can go for such type of solutions to find out the unknown parameters. So that way you can go. So the accuracy depends on how closely approximation made in forming the model representing the real structure. So what will usually, when you do a model, you make some approximations. That approximation, because you know, any tall structure, whenever you go, before you construct a building, in practice, in real, you do model the structure, you do a model analysis, you do a model study, you do a testing in the model, testing for the model in a wind tunnel or any other experimental setup. You do a model analysis and a model study, a simulation you do. You get all the forces, you remake it, then you approximate it, you make complete, then only you will go to the site and do the construction. No structure is directly, when you draw the plan, it will go, you go and do the construction. You cannot go to the start the construction. You have to do a model analysis and an approximate analysis before you start the construction. Okay, that's what we are talking about here now. So for that, do that approximation. Either you can do it in a finite element method, or you can do with some mathematical expressions and find out the equations and solutions from that. Okay, so each approximation, how accurately you are doing, that will give you a reliable result. Okay, that will represent the real structure. Okay, I think with this we will stop today's class. So this part we will discuss in, if possible, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I will take some extra classes for you. Okay, and I'll complete this this particular unit within 1 or 2 days, and I'll start the next unit. And the important aspect alone I'll teach. Okay. And once my laptop I will receive, I'll upload the PPTs. Whatever I have done, I can upload it. Okay. I hope you got an idea about the analysis and approximate analysis of the tall structures. So we
Yes,
will meet.
ma'am.
Okay, so